Big news from Paris. The leading mayoral candidate, Emmanuel Grégoire, just opened the door to selling Parc des Princes to PSG, along with a wild plan to build a full PSG-Land real estate project around the stadium. In this video, we dig into the announcement, place it in the context of the mayoral campaign and city real estate history, and walk you through the legal and administrative issues at play. Could Paris' home finally become PSG's own, or is this just political talk? Let's try to figure out where this might really go. Okay, so Parc des Princes could be for sale. Big news today. So to put it in context, Emmanuel Grégoire is the guy who made the announcement. He is right now like the right-hand man of the current mayor, Anne Hidalgo, who's been historically opposed to selling Parc des Princes. The guy in question, Emmanuel Grégoire, was actually involved in the negotiation with PSG back in the days about extending Parc des Princes and renovating it and increasing the capacity. So he's been part of those conversations. He's never indicated that he had like really different opinions from his boss on this. So it is kind of a switch and a reversal in policy for him. And right now, he's campaigning to take over as mayor of Paris and becomes a top dog. And obviously, this is a campaign issue, not the biggest one, but still a pretty sizable one, given the profile of the club and the importance and so on. So not only did he actually open the door to selling the Parc des Princes, but he came out with a bigger project around it to create an area that PSG could take over, so they could fulfill their dream of having, real estate project around the Parc des Princes to generate cash flow and generate revenue. So potentially a mall. They talk about a museum of PSG. In the PSG projects, we know they want hotels. So there could be a lot of things going on here. So let me show you actually, because they came out with mock-ups and I think like the images are pretty stunning. So this is the area currently around Parc des Princes as it is. So you can see obviously like the stadium in the middle. You see like the main road that goes under the stadium is the ring road of Paris. So it is a massively high traffic kind of highway. And it's been one of the big thorns in terms of architecture and engineering to any projects around Parc des Princes. Because you cannot really like move that road, you cannot really do anything. And so any foundations for the stadium or for anything have to be planned around and through that road, which makes it extremely complicated, creates vibrations, creates like tensions and so on. So it's a big thorn and one that's plagued Parc des Princes in PSG in our ability to build a project. And then to the left side of the road, so on the left of the picture and under Parc des Princes, there is this kind of like, you don't see it really well here, but a series of buildings which are old, dodgy, include like an old car park. There used to be like a sports store, like accessory store in there. And it's really like run down. It's like existed in its current shape since, literally as long as I remember. So probably since like the 80s or 90s or something like this. And yeah, it is there. It is not great, and that's been part of the environment of Parc des Princes. And essentially, like the supporters, when they arrive typically like the subway is out of the frame of the picture, but on the bottom right, or the other stop is on the other side, behind Jean Bouin, which is the second stadium that you can kind of see behind Parc des Princes, which is right now the home of Paris FC. And then if you go further behind that and to the right, there's another subway station there. So those are the two main access points. And people arriving by car obviously arrive mostly through the ring road. So it is tight, it is cramped, it is not ideal, it is not beautiful, and it doesn't offer a lot of opportunity structurally to really do something big to the tune of what PSG would want to do. So the project that the candidates offered is this one. And straight away you can see the difference. obviously it's a mock-up, so it's always going to look, very appealing and so on. What he proposes is covering the ring road. So the ring road is still there. It is still an issue in terms of what you can do with it, but covering it up does offer more space. They want to vegetalize this part of it as well, so a lot of trees, a lot of greeneries. And then that old like mall and building on the left, essentially like knocking it down and replacing it with what would become the PSG-Land experience. And you can kind of see like a series of small buildings in this mock-up, also with vegetal roofs and gardens. In his like presentation, he said like the guy said that there would be a museum in there, like I said, that there could be a mall, but essentially that part of the project, it sounds like, and like once again, like I don't want to get too far ahead because it's all political, and so the language and legalities of it are very precise. But it sounded like the municipality was offering this spot on a rental basis, not necessarily for PSG to buy. I don't really like, honestly, I didn't really understood how that would work, because then like, would the municipality actually be the one creating those buildings and paying? Like, it feels very strange to me. So anyway, like we'll have to see how this gets picked up. And then the stadium at the back, there wasn't a lot of details offered in terms of expansion and in terms of what that project might look like. We know that Emmanuel Grégoire, like I said, was involved in past negotiations and conversations with PSG. We know that PSG had been working and dealing with the Paris Town Hall on a project to raise the capacity of Parc des Princes from 48 to about 60,000 seats. So a pretty sizable increase, but not quite the 80, 90,000 seaters that it looks like they might be looking at in Massy and Poissy. But really redoing and essentially like knocking out some of the stands inside the stadium and rebuilding them from scratch without touching the outside shell, which is protected, which is like, basically impossible to touch. So that outside shell is also a limitation to it, and you can't really do anything about it. So it is what he came up with. I think honestly, like it looks pretty great. I'm pretty excited about it. Honestly, like if it came through, I'd be super happy about it. Personally, like I'm pretty big advocate of staying in Parc des Princes as much as possible. And I realize that, in its current shape and form, like the Parc des Princes needs some major work. If we can make it happen, that'd be the best option for me. And I think a project like this would really satisfy a lot of parties, including PSG. But the devil is in the detail. And I think, ultimately, it is a mayoral campaign. The guy is trying to get elected. PSG fans are a voting bloc in Paris for sure. And it's interesting as well. Like the funny part is that so the Parc des Princes is located on like the edge of Paris on the western side, and typically that's a part of Paris that's very, very well off and known for like being a conservative voting area. So not at all like the voting population that this candidate is actually aiming for. So for him, it's like, he can make promises because it's not going to cost him votes in this area anyway. And so, yeah, like we'll see in the long term what happens. I think from what I've seen, a lot of the people and the commentaries that I've seen online are pretty skeptical about it and kind of smell the politics in it. Like I said, that guy has been part of the current town hall team that's been completely opposed to a sale to PSG. So like the reversal at the 11th hour while campaigning feels a bit big, but you never know. Like people are entitled to change their mind, and God knows politicians do. So you never know. And the interesting part as well is that the other like leading candidate for mayor of Paris, Rachida Dati, historically she's been a big proponent of selling Parc des Princes to PSG. So now it sounds like we've got the two leading candidates on the same line of being in favor of a sale, which is a good evolution, and hopefully it like really like opens doors for us in the midterm. So anyway, what to believe at the end of this? It's honestly really hard to say. I want to believe. I think like the want to believe is very, very easy to get to. I do want to believe, like I said, like I think it's a huge advantage for PSG to have a stadium that's literally like within the city boundaries. And the projects that the PSG is looking at in Massy and Poissy are really, really further out from the city. And, it really brings questions in our ability to have the fans travel there. I think like right now, so PSG is having like the two projects side by side and kind of like moving them along. The latest that we heard though is that the one in Massy, the local politicians have pledged to have a local referendum and a local vote of the inhabitants to see if they would want the PSG stadium in Massy. And the current polling over there is about 70+% of people saying no. So it sounds like a pretty bad place to be in. And then on the other side, Poissy, I think local folks are a bit more enthusiastic about it, but there's really big questions in terms of accessibility, especially by road, with major work needed to be able to have the access points that a big capacity stadium would need. So that one could be tricky to navigate as well. And so then in the end, in Paris, what to believe? I think ultimately, like, there's a few things at play here, and I want to be like, I'm trying to keep my personal thoughts and opinions out of it, but the reality is that the Paris municipality is essentially flat broke and has been running a deficit for years and years and years. So they're getting to a point where selling some of the assets actually does make a lot of sense. And it's especially like an asset like Parc des Princes, which, is, it's an asset that needs a lot of work anyway, because like the stadium is starting to really show its age. It's not in great condition. And ultimately, like if PSG were to move away, you're left with a 50,000 seat stadium. Sure, you could like pass it on to Paris FC, but what if they don't really like develop as much as that? Would you have like a half-empty stadium week in, week out? That's degrading and that's not that's deteriorating. The town hall might have to spend money to bring it up to speed and to current standards. So it sounds like a sale would actually like be in the best interest of the Paris municipality. I think the question then is, what does the package look like, both in terms of the financials from PSG, because the first proposal that PSG had put forward for the stadium was honestly ridiculously low. And so like there needs to be an effort on the side of the club if they really want to do something. And two, like it needs to come with the project around it and the commitment for the project around it. It needs to come with a commitment to be able to extend the capacity of the stadium. It needs to come with a commitment to be able to build this PSG area, mall and shopping district and so on. It needs to come with a commitment of improving the area around Parc des Princes as well. So there's a lot of related topics that actually need to be solved as part of this conversation. Personally, like I think a lot of people, like what a lot of French people say is that PSG is kind of moving forward with other projects, but at the same time, they've said publicly that they are not going to make a decision until basically like a bit less than a year from now, which is after the mayoral election. And very, very few people believe that that timeline is actually a coincidence. I think there is a sentiment, and there's been conversations through a few different folks that PSG is kind of hoping for a good outcome in the mayoral election, but at the same time getting ready so they can move forward with other things, because they don't want to be taken on a merry-go-round again by the politicians. They already have in the past. They've kind of learned their lesson, and they don't want another like empty promises that never come to fruition. So we'll see. That's what politicians do. But hopefully, like this project is a sign of renewed commitment to find ways of working together and finding a deal. So anyway, this is where we are with this stadium conversation and the latest news around Parc des Princes. Let me know in the comment what you think of this. I'd like do the mock-ups. Like, are you making you enthusiastic? Are you excited about would this be a project that would excite you, or do you just think like Parc des Princes has done its time and it's time to move to a fancy new huge stadium somewhere in the suburbs of Paris? And you know, as always, if you made it this far in the video, please drop a like on it. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. We've got Bilbao tonight as well, so let's hope for a big win from PSG in Basque Country. And don't forget, as always, in Parc des Princes, definitely, ici c'est Paris!